Hey, this is a software showcase. This program specifically is a program that I made to go ahead and take video game sales from for 2016 and make a graph according to some user input. So let's look at what it does exactly. So it has a data set that it uses, and you pick a console. Let's do the GameCube. You can pick a region. We'll do North America. And we'll say we want to graph 10 items. And I hit submit, and then it comes up with a graph for the top 10 GameCube games that were sold in North America. And it's in order of number of millions of copies that were sold. And the name of the game is here on the left. We can see that the biggest game, the games that had the most sold copies was Super Smash Bros. Melee, and the 10th one is Sonic Mega Collection. And you can do this for worldwide or any of these three categories or any of the many consoles on this list. There's like the Nintendo Switch isn't on here because it's newer than 2016, I believe. So yeah, let's look at the data set that I'm using. So this contains the name of the game, the platform it was on, whether that's Wii, NES, etc., the year it was released, the genre of the game, the company that published the game, and NA sales here, that is North American sales, EU, European Union, JP is Japan, other, that's just other places that were sold, or copies that were sold in other regions, and a global sales category. We also have a critic score and a critic count, the number of critics that scored it on Metacritic. This, by the way, this data was scraped off of metacritic.com. I think it's a .com at least. And critic score is this average score that those critics gave. And similar on a 1 to 10 scale though, for users and user count. I think the critic score is out of 100. And finally, there's the developer and the rating. And not all games have all categories. I don't know why that is. I'm assuming it's something that has to do with the Metacritic website, but every game does have a sales category. So yeah, that is the data that I used. Why don't we take a look at the program now? I ended up using 3 different libraries. Pandas, that handles the data manipulation. Matplotlib, that graphs the data. And then I also imported PySimple GUI, and that's the GUI that you saw when I hit run over there. And so I have a few lines to set how the data displays when you print out in Pandas. I don't need this for the program that I made per se, so I might take it out at some point. And then D types, this is the dictionary that has the column name from the data set and what type of object we want that to be, whether it's an object or a category object or a flow object. And this is just for Pandas so that it knows what kind of data to expect from it. Then we read that into Pandas here and we call it the data set VG. And then I made a new column here that platinum, that's the count of games on each platform. And I think I can take that line out too. I didn't use it in the final product, I don't believe. Also defined a quick function that will quickly go ahead and given the lookup value. So for example, if we were gonna call search on D types, we would call my dictionary and say the lookup. We could do category. If we put that into the function, it would return the key, which is platform, or a publisher, or whatever else I decided to return, probably platform. Anyway, this class here is the main function of, this is where most of the code is. I established a list of dictionaries that has a category for each region. So we look at the data set, we'll see that it says NA sales, EU sales, JP sales. And this basically takes that word that's in front of it, in front of the word sales, and types it out so that a user can type North America, and then it'll return NA. And it uses that when displaying the graph, and also when fetching what column it needs to take the data from that it displays. And it does a very similar thing for self.console. And then get region names and get console names. This is used for later on in the code. It essentially just takes it more or less just returns the value for the keys in the dictionaries. So if you look at self.console, if I give that, no, it returns a list, excuse me. It returns a list of all the values in the dictionary. So if I feed it self.console, then if I feed it that dictionary, then the output is going to be a list of PlayStation, PlayStation 2, etc. So there's those. In show graph, this is most of the code. I basically have to, I might be able to take this out, I'll look at that later. But it grabs the data that it needs, and then it uses this to style and then make the graph. So this line here is what makes the graph. I have to specify what I want to graph. So platform top country dot get group, that's, I'm getting a group from the data set from here. And taking the top however many items, the items with the largest values, and then it plots it in a horizontal bar graph with these axes names and with a certain size and no legend. And then there's various styling elements here. And finally, there's the PySimple GUI code. There's a layout for the window, and then I call the window object. And in a for loop, or not a for loop, a while loop, I essentially say, this is what I want to happen when these events happen. So PySimple GUI is really easy to use. I just have to specify what I want the window to look like, and then what I want the event, what events I want to happen. And it's really easy to use. That's essentially it though. Oh, I also made this because I want to answer a couple questions. I want to know what top Wii games, how they were different from Japan sales and from North American sales. I made some graphs of the top 20 in each of those categories. So if you look at this, we see in the North American sales on the right here that Just Dance is a lot more popular than it is in Japan. And in Japan, we have games like Rhythm Heaven or Dragon Quest that just aren't as popular here in the United States. And that was really interesting to see. I also looked at what the top 3 Nintendo 60 games that were sold were. And unsurprisingly, they were Super Mario 64, Mario Kart 64, and GoldenEye 007. I think that's pretty typical, but that's my program. Thanks for watching.